When the phone call came on my mobile from the school teacher saying that your son's been taken to hospital, he's broken his collarbone and playing rugby, and could you come to the hospital? I said, well, I'm actually in India, but let me organise something. So that was quite heartbreaking. I wished I had been with my son in hospital.
Did you have a bit of a quiet blub when you came off stage? Did it hit you that, oh gosh, yeah. I should have been there, but I'm here?
Yes. And
guilt?
You can say that there are moments, unavoidable moments like that one, but that was quite hard.
Presumably it was harder when the boys were very small. And did you always have help at home? Because, I mean, you can't do everything, can you? If you're trying to run a business and make it an international concern, your husband's got his own career, something has to give. So did you employ somebody full time? Right
at the very beginning, my husband actually said, well, you're at home, so basically you can do the cooking, cleaning, gardening, ironing, everything. He rattled it off, and you definitely don't need a cleaner or a gardener or anything that you're asking for. I'm looking at your face,
it's really funny. You're getting so angry and agitated telling me.
And so I went off to London and interviewed some consultant cardiologists, earned a few £1,000 and employed my first housekeeper and the gardener, and that started me off. But I realised that after a hard day's work, you know, you don't really want to be cleaning the house, although I actually love to clean the house. I don't really want to be doing that, and I'd rather spend that time with the family.
Was there ever any prospect of your husband picking up the slack domestically and saying, well, I'll tell you what, I'll do the cleaning, or I'll do the meals?
After about 10 years, he learned to work the washing machine, I would say. But what it is that basically for me it was I work and I enjoy my work, and then when I'm home, I'm totally with the family. And we really cherish every moment, every evening and the weekends and all our holidays together.
You're an entrepreneur, but are you a stereotypical one, for example, a risk taker, or are you a passionate hard worker who wants to leave their mark, or are you a combination of those two things?
I think I'm a combination of all of those things, definitely, but I think it's just I'm a classical entrepreneur, is what I would say. Somebody that takes risks, but calculated risks, sensible ones, I think.
Can you learn that? Is that an instinct thing? Because I'm just trying to think, would I do that? Probably not, because it's just not in my psyche at the moment to do that. But can anyone become an entrepreneur, or do you have to have something in your genes that makes you think a certain way?
An entrepreneur also takes risks with their own money. That's one thing. So if someone has got a business and they're not willing to put their own money in, you know, that's one of the signs. You'll see a lot of people hold back at that stage.
And that they're not really entrepreneurs.
They may talk about being entrepreneurs that take risks, that do daring things, that do many things, but will they do it with their own money?
Bottom line, absolutely. You clearly relish the challenge of the business world. And I'm just wondering if you look at something and you just think, yep, I can do that, when most other people would talk themselves out of even contemplating a challenge.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Right, what's that all about? Are you proving something to yourself or to someone else?
I'm absolutely not. That's the greatest thing as well. We've never tried to prove ourselves to someone else. It's for my own self. I genuinely believe there are lots of things that we can do out there, but a lot of people just put a lot of hurdles in the way. They start talking about all the negatives before they talk about the positives. I'm more an optimist and more somebody that can really look at something and say, no, that's a big challenge, I can't do it. Now, let's all rack our brains together. Let's be creative as well about this. How can we do this?
Have you ever failed at anything that you've set your mind to?
I have actually.
It just sounds
I don't
quite
think
surprised.
Yes. I don't think every entrepreneur can do great things and not fail at things. Failing is part of the learning process. I took on about 27 people in Munich, built a great operation in Munich, called it a centre of excellence. Then I realised all these people were too much into research and development. They weren't into business, into actually getting any business for us, and it was going to make us a loss, so I closed it.
So that was that. You will not count it as failure.
And I kept all their skills and talents and got them to teach people in India and other places, in Scotland actually, and moved all the skills over here. So it was a failure Plus, I turned it into a kind of success as well.
It wasn't really a failure then, was it? Let's be honest.
And recently, more recently, I've had investors in the business 2 years ago, and we had certain targets to achieve. The pharmaceutical industry was really restructuring, so those particular targets weren't achieved in that way. We still grew our business, we're still profitable,
but not as much as projected,
to the extent we expected. So I don't know if that should be called a failure or not. But
some things are beyond your control, though, aren't they, with the markets?
With the markets out there, so we've still grown, and we're still growing and acquiring more clients, and will continue over the next decades, I hope.
It's an interesting, and sometimes it can be quite a murky world, pharmaceuticals, because we can't ignore the fact that the industry has been tarnished by allegations of bribes and corruptions. Are you absolutely comfortable and confident that your operation is as transparent and beyond reproach as it can be, especially because you are often dealing with developing countries?
Yes, we're absolutely confident that everything we're doing in Clintec, we're doing according to the international standards. We're following all the regulations. But at the same time, we're absolutely aware that there are lots of risks. You get exposed to even more risks in the emerging markets. And
what sort of things are we talking about?
Where the hospitals themselves, the physicians, they may not be educated in clinical research in the way we would like them to be, but we have a whole area in training as well, where we're training them before we even start working with them.
So they're required to be trained by you before you even get into some sort of a relationship with them?
Yeah, we set the guidelines, and they must be able to adhere to our guidelines, which fit very well with what the pharmaceutical industry strives for as well.
What is it about these countries that makes you drawn to them? I mean, these developing countries, why are they particularly suited to what your business does?
There's a lot of patients there, and they haven't been exposed to all sorts of Western medicines.
These are the so-called clean skins, basically, that they're referred to. Yeah,
treatment naive.
Treatment naive. Gosh, what a strange phrase that is. Yeah. But that's basically someone whose body has never had any drugs in it. It's a very pure vessel, basically. They may not have that
sort of treatment before, and one thing is it's great to be able to bring new medicines to them. They may not get any treatment otherwise, and so it's good to, there is a patient pool. It's beneficial for the pharmaceutical industry. It's beneficial for the patients as well.
Do these people get the medicines once the trials are finished, or is it just for the period that you're conducting the trials?
And there the regulations are the same whether they're in the emerging markets or in the developed world. As soon as the medicines are on the marketplace, then they'll be, companies do try to register their medicines globally.
But they'd have to pay for them thereafter. That's the point, yeah?
In the Western world, you may be able to get certain of these medicines through the various health systems, like we've got our National Health Service. Sure. If such a system doesn't exist in a particular emerging market, then obviously it'll only be the private route.
There are plenty of people, as you say, so the supply side is no problem, but there are, the huge ethical, moral considerations to take on board. High levels of illiteracy in some of the countries that you're working in. Now you mentioned it a little earlier, that's got implications for informed consent.
Yeah, informed consents need to be detailed enough to explain any risks related to that medication.
And are they made aware of it verbally, or is this a written contract?
Informed consent must be written and signed by the patient. He must understand it. It must be clearly explained to him, and a nurse or physician will have to facilitate to